Nimeni on Wolfram. Olen syntynyt Helsingissä, mutta muutin 2-vuotiaana Englantiin, missä myös vietin nuoruuteni. Olen yrittäjä ja toimin perustamani yrityksen DealDash Oyn toimitusjohtajana. Yrityksen perustin reilu 3 vuotta sitten käydessäni lukiossa täällä Suomessa ja tänään meillä on 64 työntekijää. Nyt ajattelin kertoa teille englanniksi, miten minusta tuli yrittäjä ja miksi teidänkin tulisi harkita sitä. I started my first company when I was 13 and I had this basic idea of just buying computer components on eBay and learned to put those computers together. I would sell them to my friends and neighbors, but after selling a few of those computers, I realized that I had to go around and help people installing antivirus software and changing screensavers, and I didn't really find that too exciting. So instead, I kept on trying to set up different websites, one after the other, and each was more of a failed attempt than the other. And I had a few of my friends who would laugh and think I was silly for trying again and again, but I was convinced that every time I would make it a big success like Google or Facebook. But unfortunately that never happened. And one day when I was browsing the internet for videos on YouTube, I started realizing that all these videos that were being created and uploaded by college kids and young people, of them skateboarding and them going and playing guitar, they were getting millions and millions of views. So I started contacting these video owners and I offered to buy their videos for $20 and $30. And some of them started saying, okay, well, I'll sell my video. And then when I had the video, I would go to advertisers and companies that had products that, if they wanted to advertise their wakeboards for their wakeboarding video, or if they had guitar lessons to sell to guitar viewers, I would get those together and sell the rights in the advertising space. After a while though, I was on the internet and one day I saw an ad for laptops selling for 5, 10, and 15 euros. And I clicked the ad and I came on what was called a penny auction site where you had to pay to bid, and each time you bid, you either won the auction and you got a good price, or if you were like one of the hundreds of losers in every auction, you would lose and leave empty-handed. So unfortunately, I lost 50 euros of my money trying to win a MacBook Pro, and I was really ticked off and I wasn't very pleased with the experience. So I decided to create the world's first risk-free and fair and honest alternative to these auction sites. And the big idea that I had was that if you didn't win the auction, you could buy the item you were bidding on for its normal price and then get a full refund on all the bids you used in the auction. So it was risk-free and it was a fun way to see if you could get a good product at a good price. A lot of the people I talked to about this idea and about setting up a company like this, I was 16 years old at the time, a lot of the people I talked to said that I should start here in Finland and that I shouldn't think about starting in the US or in Europe because it was too hard and there were too many big competitors out there. But we were really convinced at the time that what we had to offer customers was a more fair proposition and that people would really like the risk-free aspect. So against all the advice we received, I created the website and I started in the US. And we were right. Customers really loved the risk-free part. People voted with their credit cards for DealDash. And over time, even though we've competed with people and companies that are 30 or 50 times bigger than us in terms of marketing budgets and people, we've managed to outgrow them, and we've now become the largest competitor in our field. Thanks to the 5 lessons that I've learned along the way of starting my company and then growing it for about 4 years now, I thought I'd share with you what you can do to become an entrepreneur or what might be useful for you. The first lesson I learned was that you don't need a fantastic breakthrough vision of how you want your business to run or how you want your idea to be. A lot of younger people I speak to and people who are just like me 4 years ago feel like they don't have that one single great idea to start their business with. And the lesson that I learned was that you don't have to. You can test your way to successful products. If you have one idea, but you're not sure about the other things, just get started. And once you get started, talk to customers. And anyone can be an entrepreneur who's successful if you just keep on talking to customers and testing your way to success. The second lesson I learned was to find mentors. When I got started, I didn't have any business connections, and most of my friends were still in school. So instead, I read a bunch of books, and one book I read was one of the best-selling management books ever written by Tom Peters called The Pursuit of Wow. And in The Pursuit of Wow, the author has gone around and interviewed a lot of successful entrepreneurs or yrittäjät, and what he's found is that by putting in interviews together, he's created an amazing book. And one of the entrepreneurs in the book is called David Friend, and David has built 6 companies and taken 2 of them public. He sold another one of his companies for several $100 million. And what's so funny about David is he just keeps on doing it every 10 years, and he's now in his mid-60s, but the book had a lot of interviews with him and images of David and his ideas. And I thought to myself that David would make a really good mentor for me. So I thought maybe I should write him a letter and offer to work for free for him. And of course, I didn't do that because I realized he probably would have told me that I'm overpriced. But instead, a few years later, through one of my investors, I was introduced to David, and I got 5 minutes on a phone call with him, and he decided that he wanted to invest in my company, and then finally he joined my board, and he's been my mentor ever since. So that was the second lesson I learned, that a really good mentor can get you to go really far, even though you might not know the right people, just trying to put your eyes on a target and take every opportunity that comes by to meet those people. The third lesson I learned was to hire the best possible people. When the company grew and I had to hire my first few employees, we were working really hard, and we had this small little office where we basically live and sleep and eat, and I've always tried to hire people that were way smarter than I am. And luckily for me, it hasn't been too hard to find those people. But over time, we've managed to put together a really strong team of people that have, in many cases, a lot more experience than I do in many fields. And working together as a unit on the common goals we have as a company has been a lot of fun, but also helped us grow the business where we're now the largest company in our field. And then another really important lesson that we had to learn the hard way was to really talk to customers more, especially when you're getting started, but perhaps even more importantly, when you think that you've found a model that works. Even today, we talk to customers every day. I have a phone call with customers every week. So if you're just getting started and you're thinking about getting your own business off the ground, start talking to people who may be your customers. Talk to your friends, ask them about if they would be willing to pay for your product, and talk to other people, and you'll learn a tremendous amount by just doing that. The final lesson that I think has been the most important for anyone who is starting their own business or thinking about starting their own business is to not compete on anyone else's terms. There's a story I like to share with all of our new employees that joined DealDash, and it's a story about a fellow named Jeff, and Jeff had his own flower shop, and he'd been selling flowers successfully for many years, and he had his loyal customer segments that would come in. And one day Jeff came to work, and he realized that one of the largest flower companies had opened their store right next to his, and they were running deals like 50% off. And it was really hard for Jeff to compete with that because Jeff didn't have the pricing power, and he didn't have the marketing knowledge or experience to really drive customers into his store. So Jeff struggled, and as time went by, he lost some of his customers, and he had to let go of some of his employees. And one day Jeff came to work, and he realized on the very other side of his store, an even larger flower company had set up, and they were running deals like buy one and get two free. And at this point, it became really hard for Jeff. He struggled. He tried to take down his prices to compete, but he kept on losing his customers, and at this point, he had to lay off some of his most loyal employees. One day, Jeff came to work, and he thought to himself on his way to work that he must be the most unlucky man in the world. He has the worst store location possible. But he decided that he didn't have to compete on their terms. So he came to work, he looked at the stores, one on the left side and one on the right side, and his in the middle, and he took down all the advertising that he had on the windows, and he put a big sign on top of his store that said, "Main entrance here." And of course, Jeff realized that he actually had the best possible location, and the business took off. And that's exactly what Finns and us young people need to do when we start our own businesses, to realize that we don't have to compete on anyone's but our own terms.